Welcome to New Realities. My name is Alan Steinfeld. Today's guest is Corinne Lebrun, the author of Infinity Within, Expanding Consciousness Through Science, Mysticism, and the Creative Expression. She's also going to be one of the keynote speakers at the upcoming Sedona Ascension Retreat.
You're invited to join us for our 2026 Sedona Ascension Retreat. Set your heart on fire and ignite the passion in your soul. We'll be opening cosmic portals with our friend Daryl Anka, who'll be channeling Bashar, along with UAP disclosure researcher Danny Sheehan. You can become telepathic, and mindsight expert Daniel Burgorn will be teaching technique. Renowned hypnotist Sarah Bressman Cosme will be guiding a group past life regression. Special guests include Dr. Diane Hennessy, star of the Telepathy Tapes podcast and author of the ESP Enigma, as well as Hakeem Isler, creator of Side Games International. You'll be immersed in sound journeys offered by Metapop musician Omashar and harp and crystal bowl performer Shelley Reed. Channelers Pia and Colin will be transmitting messages from different star races. Host of one of the most popular podcasts on YouTube, Yannicka, will be hosting a live Wisdom from North show. A highlight of our event will be the Sedona Skywatches. I am your host, Suzanne Ross, and my co-host will be Alan Steinfeld. We invite you to join us for our 2026 Sedona Ascension Retreat. See you in Sedona.
Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, back with my favorite co-host and founder of the Sedona Ascension Retreat, Suzanne Ross.
Let's invite Corinne to share what she's going to be doing at the Sedona Ascension Retreat.
This workshop is really, really close to my heart because it's actually even the name of my book, Infinity Within. And even the reason I started to write the book is to help people understand how the inner world connects with the outer world. So that's something we're so focused on these days is, oh, let's manifest, let's create in the outside world. How can we give back in the outside world? And a lot of times our internal world gets a little neglected. Yeah. So for me, it all really began with the world of dreams. Because I used to wonder, how is it possible that I can dream about the future? And these are things that used to happen to me when I was a kid. And even just knowing what people were feeling or what they were thinking. I mean, and I'm very, very logical and very pragmatic. So it used to mystify me. And that's why I went down the road of academia and bridging together science and psychology and mysticism to try to understand these worlds. So I found that by using specific practices, you can go inward and you can find the connection between what it is your subconscious is telling you, and then sometimes what the outside world is reflecting back to you from the same symbols. It's really kind of fascinating. So aside from, aside from meditation, I feel like that's like a staple. If you're on the spiritual path, learning the tools of meditation is the very first step, because that's how you make your mind your friend instead of arguing with you all the time.
Right.
And it's learning to understand the difference between your intuition and emotional reaction. Sometimes is it other people's stuff? These are all the things that when you take the time to learn what's really happening in your own mind through meditation, your level of discernment increases, let's say almost like exponentially in the world. Because then you have the tools to understand what is mine, what is theirs, what is coming from my own psychology, my own way of perceiving the world, and what is coming from the outside. At least those are the goals of meditation. So that's the very first piece, is meditation.
Well, that's correct. I know. I love everything you're saying. So you want to go into how don't give away the workshop, but like,
Yeah.
how do you start to change the inner and outer realities?
So with first, the meditation is the foundation. That's why I bring that up. And then the second piece, like I have a journaling technique, and I'm really going to be sharing this in the workshop. So I'm getting a little distracted by the screen here. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay. Um, so that's what I'm going to be sharing about in the workshop is this very specific journaling technique. And this was taught to me by one of my very first spiritual teachers, and I found it has been invaluable. So what you do, it's called the spiritual logbook, and you treat your spiritual experiences as if you were a scientist. So you write everything down from your dreams, if you've had synchronicities, psychic phenomenon, and sometimes it's difficult to discern, is it a psychic phenomenon or is it a synchronicity? So you start getting better and better at deciphering these things, and these are the things I'll be going into in the workshop is, how do you learn to decipher these things? How do you learn how to decipher your dreams? And so that's another piece of the workshop, is just a little bit of dream interpretation as well. So this is where you start to learn the symbols of your inner world through dream interpretation, and sometimes you see them in the outer world. I'll get to that in a second. But when you start to see the patterns by writing things down in a journal that's dedicated just for these types of events, so only dreams, let's say unexpected gifts, synchronicities, psychic events, there are a few more on there as well. If the journal is only dedicated to that, what happens is when you're writing, your mind gives its every day, let's say you're writing, it's with your handwriting, not on your computer. Your subconscious starts to kick in, and it becomes something you watch out for on a day-to-day basis. You start watching for these things more. And anyone that's ever done this practice, they're always so surprised at how many more synchronicities they have. How many more dreams they remember, how many more psychic events they actually see. And it gets to the point, it sometimes gets a little scary for people because they're like, oh my God, like, and then anyway, get back to the whole thing of, are we in a simulation or not? I mean, it gets to that point when you start to really pay attention. This is what I mean, to the inner world, because then you're watching also in the world around you for symbols, synchronicities, unexpected gifts, even. So these are like the inner codes, and you see it reflected in the outside world.
Well, doesn't that go perfectly, Suzanne, with what Riz Verk is talking about, the simulation hypothesis, right? I mean,
Absolutely. And even Riz focuses a lot on the spiritual traditions and how that's an interplay, with the simulation hypothesis. And, not that necessarily we're in a computer game where, you're going to talk about a lot of binary code. And he's talking more about like a divine hologram, right?
Yeah.
That is being projected. And we're really tuning into that source of ourself who is projecting this aspect.
right.
Yeah, and it's I don't know that I would call what I look at the world as a simulation, but it sure can feel like it. For example, like one example I love to use is one of the times I was really immersed in this practice is I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and I hadn't, she was talking about a friend's baseball hat. And as I was talking to her, I was cleaning and happened to find my son's baseball hat, which had been missing for 6 months. The one exactly when she said the word baseball hat. So it's things like that. And if you suspend your belief, that's another thing. It's really big. You suspend your belief of the paradigm of what it's supposed to be.
Right.
What is it supposed to mean? Because when you leave that open, it's what happens is your brain can't create, I call it like guardrails around the reality that you think you're going to be perceiving.
Right.
Does that make sense? Because then you leave more open space for these unexpected experiences to find you if you don't put yourself into a box of any kind.
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying, but let's go a little deeper if you want.
Yeah.
What you're bringing up for me is there's a reality beyond this apparent reality, right? So there's something that,
Source
right,
reality.
a deeper part of us is connected to. So I think you're trying to get people to connect to that bigger reality, like below the surface, because we're just looking at the surface. Oh, a baseball hat. And I was just thinking of baseball. It's like, oh, that's a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. It's
Yeah.
somehow happening on another level. How do you explain that?
Yeah. So now that's going to get into my other passion topic, which, closely aligns to this, which is what people call Kundalini experiences, or I actually really like to call them experiences of spiritual expansion,
Mhm.
spontaneous expansion. Because what happens when you have a Kundalini experience or an experience of spontaneous spiritual expansion is you break through the barriers of perception. You break through the barriers of any paradigm of what you believe this world is about. And that happens so much also to people who have NDE experiences, near-death experiences. Like you just break through and there's no explanation and there's no framework. And this is the beauty of when you don't define the framework, and that's so hard for us as humans, is like we look at it, is it in a Christian framework? Is it an experience of, the Holy Spirit? Is it in the Middle Eastern framework? Is it in the Indian framework of Kundalini comes up from the bottom of the spine? So there are many, many different frameworks around the world of what can cause us to break through this other level of consciousness. And that's really what I love to do is help people, break the barriers even further to say, let's not have a framework around it. Let's not define it and see what your experience is with it, because that's what's going to get you to the next level, to keep repeating them on a repeated basis rather than limiting ourselves to a belief system. But anyway, I'm sure I diverge because I get so
Oh, no,
passionate
no.
about that. What was your original question?
No, I just love it all because I think Kundalini and what Suzanne's talking about, ascension and the vibration of raising our consciousness to this bigger picture, it's all related.
Oh, yes. Okay. So for me, okay, I don't believe that we're really raising our energy to anything. I think we're breaking through to what is already there. I
Mhm.
think it's always around us. It's always there. And it's a matter of allowing it to come in. It's removing the filters. It's all about removing and letting go consistently. And that's part of like the work. I mean, it's part of I even talk about it in my book. It's releasing the baggage of life. We have to release trauma, release how our energy gets caught up by, because life is traumatic. It's like we always have to do the work to continue to release things. But when we do, it's like we have more of an opportunity for those expanded states of consciousness to come and find us. So,
Right.
like, they come find us. We release the ideas of what we think things are about. So, um,
Well,
yeah, so I think that's what we're doing.
yeah. So Suzanne, you're doing that too with with this conference in a way. It's the purpose is to transform, ascend.
Yeah.
Transcend the matrix. I mean, that's what we're talking
Yes,
about. It's
exactly.
removing that which entangles us in the web. We're going beyond the matrix, transcending the matrix. We're no longer trapped in the matrix. When we start to expand our consciousness, and when we do reach the higher vibrational state of the next plane, there we are. Yes, it's there. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of us resonating with the vibration of the next higher dimensional experience. And then we find ourselves there, individually or collectively. For ascension, we happen to be in this time when there's meant to be a mass ascension event because we're coming into this golden age. So we're getting a lot of support from our cosmic brothers and sisters, showering us with cosmic currents, right? That's increasing our light quotient. It's coding us with those light codes. codes needed so that we can be, those higher dimensional beings. We can start to ignite our rainbow light body, so all of these practices that you're talking about, like
Yeah.
meditation, journaling, Kundalini, all of that leads to us transcending the matrix.
Yeah, entirely. And that's, coming back to the actual workshop title, the infinity within unlocking the code between dreams, synchronicity, and reality. It's the specific practice around this type of journaling because it's scientific journaling. You're basically becoming your own scientist when it comes to, let's call them metaphysical experiences. Because when you're writing down just your dreams, just your interdimensional events, just the strong senses of intuition, what happens is it gains momentum, and then boom, you find yourself in that next level. That's the piece. It's like I can give you an example. This was so much fun. I have a business client. I also do business strategy work. It's just, straight up business guy. And he decided to take one of my spiritual workshops. And I was teaching this technique. And I was talking about how one time I was sitting with someone who was also very skeptical at a restaurant. And the glass was moving across the table. And I'm like, don't you see this glass moving across the table? And my friend's like, no, I don't see anything. I'm like, look, the glass is moving across the table. There's no water underneath. There's no water tension. And they're like, oh, so what? And I'm like, so what? This is not supposed to happen, So, and I shared that story because to me, that's just such an example of how sometimes, with our cognitive biases, we just erase things because they don't fit the paradigm of what we believe life should be. It's just one example of that. So I shared that with the group and I shared it with this guy in there. And then the very next day, he sends me a video. Oh my God, you won't believe what happened. I was at lunch and look, and he sends me a video of a glass moving across the table.
Right.
He became a believer after that of altered states of consciousness and how easy they are to tap into and how, let's say, breaking through, I like to call it the 3D construct of reality, how we can break through to the 5D. And I like to define that by that's where we get the synchronicities. That's where we get the dreams that come true. That's where we get the paranormal events. So it's just by being aware, it's so much easier to break through to that other side than what people believe it actually is. And that's something I love, teaching people that because some people are like, oh, I'm so stuck. I wish I had a synchronicity. I'm like, yeah, well, come over here. Let me show you how, it's exciting. It's exciting to me to watch people
Right.
get those. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wayne Dyer said you have to believe it to see it, right? I mean, that says it
Yes.
all.
Right. So
100%.
you gave that guy the model, and then it showed up in his reality. If you didn't say
Yeah.
it, he might not have seen it or believed it, or you know.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have noticed it, or who knows what made the glass move, whether that was water tension or what in his case. He's like, it didn't matter. It was the point that it
Right,
happened right after you said it,
right. That's what
and
I
it
say
was,
about my favorite subject, UFOs.
yeah.
You
Yes.
have to
Totally.
aware of it, because a lot of people could be looking at the sky and one person sees a ship and another person sees nothing. So it's forming the cognitive awareness of the
Yes.
event. That's what I noticed.
Yeah.
I was with Dahlia when she first put the blindfolds on me, Suzanne, and she said, and then I realized I was seeing something beyond the blind in the blindfolds. I mean, I was, and she just pointed out
Ooh.
what it was I was seeing. You should see our interview. Me and Suzanne interviewed Dahlia, and she was just fantastic. Just,
Wow.
I know.
I
Yeah,
love that. See, just sometimes it takes a teacher to show us what is possible. And
right.
it's like, and then we automatically go into, I guess, what we label as humans as superhuman, which is where I believe we are meant to be these superhumans.
Yeah,
Our capacity for these paranormal experiences is just it's very normal. But until someone shows us that we can do this, we don't even know it's possible. And like like with looking at UPAs, it's like I'm never getting terminology right these days.
UAPs.
UAPs, it's when you know what to look for. when you know what you're looking for in the sky, and then you go, oh, wow, now I understand what I'm seeing and feeling.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're just going to walk right by it and not even notice
Well, it
with
also has to do
anything. Yeah.
with what they're saying of the 4 minute mile example. You know about that?
Yes.
No
Yes,
one
yes,
could
yes.
run a mile in under 4 minutes until someone did it. Then everyone started to do it. He broke the barrier, Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
so it takes that kind of artist, I call them artist breakthroughs to show the new
Yeah.
realities. That's what my show, New Realities, is all about.
That's so
Making
true.
those
Yeah.
breakthroughs in consciousness so we can cognize something unknown, like not just recognize it, but I think you're talking about, Corinne, cognition. How do we start to realize what we're seeing or tasting or feeling? We need
Yeah.
to label
Oh,
it, right?
yeah. And I just realized what you were saying. Like, we need to label it, to see it, but yet also stay in the question.
Right.
It's the yin and the yang. It's like
Don't
creating
get
a
attached
framework and
to
then
the labels. Yeah.
having not the framework, because once you put a label and a framework around anything, I mean, even in my work all the time, I'm always like, do I really believe what I'm saying? I don't know. I better check it out. That's why it took me over a decade to put this book together, is
Yeah.
I was like, do I really believe what I'm saying? I want to tear apart the framework and then watch what reemerges again. It's
Right.
I
I
think
need that
any
to change.
framework can limit. Yeah,
No, no, we
because when
don't
you
want to
don't,
put it into a
yeah.
box. We want to
Yeah,
create a
yeah.
new box. So it is a kind of
Because it's
fine line
open.
between
Yeah.
naming and letting it stay open to, like
Yes.
like I say in my remote viewing classes, if you call
Yeah.
something a tree, you limit the possibilities of that infinite being you're standing in front of. So
Wow, like that. Yeah. And I was just thinking, because otherwise you're not even open to new information if you create a box around it. And it's all about when you're open to that new information, then we can expand consciousness even
right,
further, like ascend, expand, become more superhuman and ultimately more connected to each other. Because I find as we expand, we become more psychically connected, more empathic, and then therefore like more compassionate to each other as human beings and like fellow, like my cat is meowing to our animal friends and other living beings
well,
as our
that's what I
consciousness
love.
expands. Yeah.
I love what Suzanne is doing because she's bringing all these original thinkers together in one place. So these frameworks can shift, right, Suzanne? Is that your big plan
Yeah,
here?
I mean, what's been coming up
Hmm.
for me as you guys are sharing, it's deprogramming, right? And also, like
Yes, yes.
Bruce Lipton's biology of belief, keeps coming up. It's like you give somebody a placebo pill and they heal and get better. It's all about what
Yeah.
kind of programs we've been running about. What we believe ourselves to be capable of, and then deprogramming to know that we're infinite beings. The possibilities are infinite. If we believe it, we can do it. If we believe it, we can see it. So, you start breaking through that programming, especially when you start to engage in, spiritual practices and you expand your psychic awareness. And then you start having experiences like seeing a glass move across the table,
Hmm.
right? It starts to be affirmation after affirmation
Yeah.
that this programming that has been imprinted upon you by society, your parents, school, whatever, you start to break through it. And then you start deprogramming, you start deconstructing those walls around you. And then you can really transcend the matrix and,
Hmm.
become that superhuman being that you always have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You become the infinite mind, like you say, right, Corinne? It's like
Yeah.
we are infinite. We are
We
infinite.
are. It's like the amount of like if you go inward, if you're really good at it, I'm still not there yet. It's like if you master the art of lucid dreaming, I mean, the information you can get, the people you can meet on the inner plane is, and then also, the thing about our super psychic friends, our medium friends, they can access an infinite amount of information by going inward.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It's all about the going inward. You have to be able to go into both universes, the one we have here in the external world. Actually, now we've got three universes, come to think of it. We've got the external world We've got this internal, let's call it Akashic record world for it, just to use a label.
Right.
But then we also have the digital world too. Let's not forget about this. This is a whole other universe around us that is entirely invisible, that has like universes within it itself. So we've got three different worlds we're navigating these
Well, I
days.
think there's more than that
Yeah.
because in remote viewing, we go to a different world. If you talk to the telepathy kids, they have the hill. That's a whole world they go to. I mean, I think we're discovering doorways to other realities, other worlds, and we're just using consciousness in a new way to awaken these new experiences. This is why
Yeah.
love Chris Bledsoe's work because he knows, he is so confident that anytime he goes out there, ships will show up. They're
And
part
the, yeah.
of the world. They are. He doesn't even hesitate, and they do show up. They do. And if you come to Sedona, you're going to see
I
those.
can't wait. No, I'm excited. I'm so excited. It's going to be great.
Yes, and
Wow.
everyone watching too, come to Sedona because really, this is the best conference I think you've done so far, Suzanne, because you've gotten really cutting edge thinkers like Diane Hennessy, who's the one who said, hey, these autistic kids are telepathic. And she's a neuropsychiatrist and understands how the brain works and realized there was something else happening there. So I think we're in such a great time of revolution. Of course, everything's being shaken up
Mm-hmm. Oh,
politically,
yeah.
socially, culturally, but that's in a way good.
Purposefully.
Purposely, yeah. Because
Purposefully,
Yeah.
why
right? I
not?
mean, all of that has a deeper meaning and greater purpose because I really
Mm-hmm.
believe everything is orchestrated, by the cosmos, by the universe, by the one infinite creator on purpose. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
obviously, many people are talking about this, but everything needs to be shaken up in order to, be reconstructed, right? Everything has to be deconstructed in order to be reconstructed. And that's the time that we're in. So they can be turbulent times. And, the book of Revelations, it requires the patience of the saints to go
Mm-hmm.
through these turbulent times, right? But the whole idea is that we have the opportunity then to rebuild the new world as the new humans that we really want, the ideal reality, right? Where we can activate our innate gifts, skills, and abilities and bring heaven to earth. And that's what our mission is. And it's also,
Yeah.
that time where we've spiraled into the golden age, right? And then we have the opportunity for ascension. But yes, thank you, Alan, for, bringing up the people who are coming to this event. I always tune in to see who really feels in alignment. Alan, you're always so helpful and insightful about bringing in people for just the ideal combination who are bringing in like diverse topics. So, we really have a good diversity of speakers bringing in different presentations, doing different demonstrations, guiding meditation, visualization, all of it to the indoor workshops and outdoor journeys and sky watches, right? You get this really comprehensive 3-day immersive experience. You're
Yeah,
invited to drop into it in that way, the whole 3 days of really being immersed.
right,
And then really have the opportunity for that fully transformative experience.
right. And we're in Sedona, the ground zero for transformation place in the country and the planet, maybe.
Absolutely, right. And we're
Yeah.
doing it during the spring equinox too, Alan. I
Oh,
mean, it's all
wow. I
very
didn't realize
strategic
that.
that we're
Wow.
Oh,
Oh,
doing
I
the
love
vortex.
that.
Right. We're doing it at the
Jeez.
spring equinox when the veils between realms are thin. And they have known this since ancient times and built entire temples around these equinox dates. So that's why I have my spring and fall events during the
Wow.
equinoxes, right?
no, I think that is so important. We're in a sacred place on a sacred day, doing sacred activities to activate our own sacred or infinite. I equate sacred and infinite
Oh,
together
yeah. It's going to be
because,
powerful.
yes,
Yeah.
so the ascension is upon us, perhaps. I mean, we're building toward.
We're moving through it.
We are. We're going
We
for it.
are. It's happening. It's happening. I'm just watching it before my eyes.
You
Yeah.
know, and Corinne, what you were said about the Kundalini energy, because I'm familiar with that, that is like a prelude to ascension. When that energy moves through your body and vibrates your cells, then that's a kind of mini ascension in a way, I think. And that's what you're going to be talking about at your Kundalini workshop, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm definitely going to be talking about the topic and different frameworks around it because there are many different ways to look at what the experience is all about. And now there are actually scientific research studies on people's experiences. So no longer is it just, well, what somebody says or thinks. Now we actually have some science behind it, which I love because I love to bridge the two. Is I feel like when we have the science, we can sometimes take a shortcut instead of meandering down a road for 30 years. We're like, oh, now we have the information that's a bit more clear. We can be on the fast track.
Right.
So it really helps to empower people to realize that their experiences are valid. To me, that's the biggest piece of the scientific aspect. Because sometimes people will think, oh, I didn't have a Kundalini experience because I didn't shake. And it's like, well, did you have an inexplicable expanded state of love? Well, that counts, So yeah, things like that. I'm really excited to share about all
Well,
that.
actually, I was going to ask you to define Kundalini because so many people have different ideas about what that is. What would you say? I mean, you sort of said it just now, but how do you give people
Yeah,
an understanding of it if they want
well,
that?
sure. Well, it's there's Kundalini energy and then a Kundalini experience. Let's call two different things. And so Kundalini energy can be defined as chi in your body. And your body always has chi because it's life force. And when Kundalini, let's say, becomes activated, when you suddenly have an expanded state of consciousness, it's like there's a lot more chi running through you. And there's many different theories as to why that happens and how that happens and when that happens. But when it happens, so how you can define a Kundalini experience or what people are calling spontaneous spiritual experiences to like reframe it a little bit. It can feel like sudden like states of like bliss and awe, or suddenly somebody might, feel like they have a lot of energy moving, like literally, like you've plugged your finger into a light socket energy, and all of a sudden somebody might become clairvoyant and they never were clairvoyant before in their lives. So it can be a sudden shift in consciousness from like a regular 3D to suddenly like, oh my God, now I'm psychic and I didn't believe in this stuff before. I've worked with people like that before. It can be very jarring, or it can be, wow, I've been on a spiritual path for a long time. And wow, I just really got that. I had a profound feeling of oneness and infinite love that stayed with me for a whole month. So
Right.
it can be different experiences like that. And yeah, there's a lot of, let's say, mythology around it that my goal is to help clear it up so people can really feel good about moving into expanded states of consciousness and
Right.
feeling energy moving through them and
Right.
feeling more love and feeling empowered.
Right.
That's really what it's about. I have
Yeah.
so much to say on that, so I'm like holding back because I could
Okay.
talk a
Okay.
whole
No,
hour.
no, no.
And on that note, wait, I actually have a podcast I'm starting on this subject.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yes, and that's what you were asking me before, what I'm excited about, what I've been
Right.
working on. It's a podcast on this particular subject.
On
So I've got some
Kundalini, you're
amazing,
saying a Kundalini podcast.
yes,
Oh, I have a bunch of people. I think I've told you about some of them who would be great
yes,
guests for that because I've been
yeah.
studying for a long time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I know. It's amazing the list of people I have already. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be so busy. So I'm going to put you on the list, Suzanne, too. Like it's
Right
really,
on.
and it's
Thank
been
you.
such a calling for so many years. And yeah, it's going
it,
to be pretty awesome.
it is related to ascension, that frequency. If that was a instigator,
Hmm.
everyone, the world would definitely be different. They would know who they really are. They'd know the infinite nature of
Well,
their
yeah.
divine being. Yeah.
And what ends up happening is, I like to think of it as your neurons fire at a specific rate, okay? And then when you've got a lot of electromagnetic energy moving through you, as with Kundalini, what happens is your neurons, they light up in a different way. So then what was unconscious becomes conscious because, we all have our subconscious is, let's see, a lot of it's hidden from us so we can function in the day-to-day world. What happens with Kundalini activation is that your neurons begin to fire in like I said, in a different way. So that was what was unconscious becomes conscious,
Right.
and therefore you're able to see past the limits of our mind puts in for a framework so we can function. So it's almost very biological in
Mm,
that way.
right.
Um, yeah, so it's looking at it that way as well. And that's why people have NDEs. There's so much, like I said, there's so much I can say about this topic. But it's how we can break through to those expanded states where we end up then feeling more connected to each other and realize how our behavior impacts other people, how what we do actually makes a difference in the world, and how we can really elevate everything through just compassion and love. I think that's like the ultimate thing. Like, what is it really all about? It's really all about that.
But my
Yeah,
question is, how do you bring that into your personal life? Your family, someone may piss you off, or, it's
yeah.
great, but, there's sometimes, I guess, tests to that infinite love, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, you just become more aware of it. And it's funny, it's like I coach business owners as well. And you wonder, like, would this even affect a business owner?
yeah.
And it's really about your passion in life and your purpose in life. And how does your experience of an expanded state of consciousness or a mission you feel you've been given, like Suzanne, like your mission? And there are other people I know who felt like they were given their missions during these expanded states of consciousness. And
Mhm.
some of them don't even want to talk about it. Like, no, I'm a business person. I am not talking about this. Or I'm a scientist. I'm practical. I'm not talking about this. But it's their mission. And that's how that expanded state of consciousness ends up filtering into, let's call it 3D reality to change it. But also, like, day to day, it's you become more aware of, how can I bridge the world of my spiritual practice to my family? Like, how do I show more love? How do I be more compassionate, understanding? How do I ask questions about their experience in life instead of making an assumption about where they're at? Like, I have a child, he's 21 now, so I ask him tell me more about your experiences online with your friends and gaming and being in virtual reality. Like, tell me more instead of me automatically going, no, that's not good.
Right,
So anyway, those are just practical ways of how do you bridge this spiritual experience into your
right.
day-to-day life.
And what can you do energetically, right? I run a horse ranch and there's a lot of people involved, so there's always relationship dynamics, right? And rather than sometimes I think, confronting someone or, maybe harboring some blame or resentment about something, what can you do energetically without even involving them physically, right? Can you sit and pray for them? Can you sit and send them so much love that you ultimately shift in physical reality what's actually transpiring? And so then, you end up shifting your perception about it, and it changes the reality of how it unfolds going forward. And suddenly, that person is like interacting with you in a loving,
A
compassionate
whole
way,
different
and you never
way.
had to have any
Yes.
conversation. You just
Yeah,
shifted it energetically.
I love that you mentioned that. In the first place I'd say I really learned to do that was this wonderful book written in I think it's the 1950s called oh my God, what is it? Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's based upon the New Testament, and it talks about like the original like what the original Greek said, etc. And I love those kind of things, going down those rabbit holes of what did the Bible really say. I'm really curious. But it is all about when you tap into the divine and the God in other people, you send that energy of love to shift your current reality. And that's exactly what you were saying, Suzanne. And it's like, and that book was the first place I was exposed to it. Like my first spiritual teacher, he's like, here, this is one of the books you're allowed to read. I wasn't allowed to read many spiritual books. He was very strict. So, but that was one of them I was allowed to read.
Who was your spiritual, if you don't mind sharing, and maybe you don't have to?
Yeah, his name was Tony Mattiaccio. And he was actually my therapist, but it
Huh?
turned out he was very, very spiritual. He was, I was like 17 or 18, and I have no problem talking about this these days. It's actually in my book too. Like I came from a very dysfunctional alcoholic household, and I said to myself, well, shit, if I don't go to therapy now, I'm going to really be messed up for the rest of my life. So I better go to therapy.
Well,
And so I put myself in, I was like, I remember going to the clinic going, okay, I need a therapist. And they're like, would you like Mary or would you like Tony? And I was like, well, I already have a pretty crappy relationship with men because of my stepfather. So let me pick Tony. That'll be good for me. And I remember one of the very first sessions sitting with him in this little tiny hole in the wall therapist's place in Danbury, Connecticut, sitting at his like the little wooden desk. It's like a bunch of papers piled high, and saying to him, "Well, Tony, I want you to know I think I'm crazy, and if I'm crazy, please lock me up. I mean, do whatever you need to do, but I see auras around people. I dream about the future. I have, deceased people come and giving me messages." And I went down the list of my psychic experiences, thinking he was going to say, well, okay, Corinne, I guess, you're going to need to be institutionalized. And instead he looks at me and he goes, you're in the right place. And little did I know that he was going to end up not just being my therapist, but truly my spiritual teacher for the first very formative 7 years of my life, from like, 17 till I was 24. And he taught me about inner child work. I was so disappointed. I really wanted to learn about being psychic. And he's like, no, first we need to work on your inner child. And I'm like, what? Like, why do I have to learn about my inner child? And, but it was amazing to do that inner work at that age. And then later on, of course, it was things like he'd give me something to contemplate for a whole month. One of them was, go contemplate when the wind meets the water. That's your spiritual lesson for the month. And I'd be like, okay, I guess I better contemplate that. So I'd have to write everything out and track my dreams and synchronicities and everything and hand it in to him once a month when I'd see him. So it was
oh,
very profound.
thank you for sharing that. Now I know a little bit more about you and see your development and see, in a way, why you're passionate about sharing your insights with other people.
Yeah.
Because this is why we're all here, to share.
Yeah. To share this, and like, like some of us used to think we were crazy, and now there are a whole bunch of us, we've all found each other, and it's like such a relief and so beautiful. And that's the magic that this has brought to my life. Even in the hardest of times, when you get the synchronicities, when you get those affirmations, when everything on the outside seems to be falling apart, it's like just that connection just makes you know that you are cared for by the divine order. There is a higher purpose. There's a higher organization, like what you were talking about before, Suzanne. There's a divine order, even if we can't see it all the time.
Can I ask you, can you actually create synchronicities, or are there things you just have to notice more, or can you do something to make them happen?
What do you mean make them happen?
Well, things, synchronicities just show up, but like, you're really,
Yes.
but how do you,
Yes.
how do you make them?
100%. You do my spiritual logbook.
Oh, the spiritual love
technique. I mean, no, I'm serious. 100% guaranteed. Every single time anyone follows that method, they always come back to me and go, oh my God, every single time.
And what is a logbook? You write your dreams, you write your vision.
Okay.
What
It's actually, the instructions are in my 2 books. They're in Infinity Within, and it's in my handbook for badass spiritual warriors. But so people can get it there, but I'll also say it out loud. The the instructions are a little more detailed, but what you do is you go and get yourself a dedicated journal. That's like so important. Don't do this in your journal where you're talking about other stuff. No, dedicated logbook. And
Mhm.
then what you do is you only at the end of every day, you sit there and you write down as like a scientist, you say, okay, synchronicities, did I notice any? Dreams, if you meditate, did you get any messages in your meditations? That's another piece. Did you get any unexpected gifts? Those are other really interesting things to watch. And
Oh,
any psychic, or I like to call them interdimensional experiences. And for myself, I separate psychic and interdimensional. But when you're first starting, like just psychic experiences, you write those things down. And if nothing happens, when you first start this, you can sit there 2 whole weeks and nothing will happen, but it's so important at the end of the day, you go, okay, I have my spiritual logbook, nothing to report. You just write it down and nothing to report. And I'm like, oh, I was thinking about my friend and they called me today. Amazing. That's one thing. And so it slowly starts to build over time. And then the times when there's nothing happening, you got to write down nothing to report. But it's the discipline of doing that that really gets your mind on board. And then when you start writing them, it gives your mind permission to see and experience even more. I mean, Alan, it's even to the point with me now where it's like I'll be driving, I'll turn on my stereo, turn on my Spotify, I'm going to music, and then I look, and then like people are walking to the beat of the music. The traffic lights are blinking to the beat of the traffic. It's like it gets to that point. It's so freaking awesome. But
right.
yeah, I love that technique. It's amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm reading a word and listening to like a YouTube video, and it's the same word comes on at the same time I'm reading it. And it does
Yeah.
that, is that like a sign I should pay attention to that word, or is that just a coincidence?
Okay. So what I heard once, and I love this saying, is it's the universe winking at you. And you don't, and it's the less definition you put on it, the better. And actually, there's a whole piece in one of my chapters in the books, in my book, on different kinds of synchronicities based on the original teachings of Carl Jung. And we don't have time to go over that today.
Right, right, right.
But Carl Jung, and it's like we've got a watered down version right now of what we think synchronicities are. But if you go back to his work, you're like, oh, damn, he was like really like, he
Yeah.
really went down the rabbit hole to explain what different ones were and what they were like. Um, but yeah, that's
Mm. All
different
right.
versions of
No,
them.
I love that. Someone introduced
Hmm.
a book about, I should turn you on to this guy who's really studied this whole field of synchronicity. I forgot what his
Oh,
Bernard.
it's phenomenal. It's so interesting. But yeah, it's the universe winking at you. And I made the mistake early in my spiritual journey of thinking that every synchronicity was leading me somewhere. And I think that's something everybody does at first. When you first start getting a bunch, you think, oh, well, I keep getting them, so I must mean that I should go do this.
Right,
It's
right.
literally just the universe winking at you, and it kind of you have to discern, and it's that learning and discernment of what am I being shown,
Right.
even though there
Why
are a
is
bunch of
the universe
synchronicities.
winking
Yeah.
at me now? Why do I have to, is, or maybe just noticing, maybe it's
It's just noticing.
waking up, like maybe I was
Yeah.
not awake and boom, something wakes me up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sometimes it is just noticing. Sometimes it's a message, like sometimes I'll get messages from, I'll literally watch something on Netflix and then I'll go to my book that I'm reading. I'm like, oh my God, what are the chances that it's saying the exact same thing? And
Where's your
so,
focus, right? I think that's what
yeah,
brings in these different experiences. You're
yes.
focusing on a word, it shows up somewhere else. You're focusing on a baseball hat, it shows up in front of you. It's like, where is your focus? And I
Yeah.
think that can bring in synchronistic events like running into
Hmm.
certain people, ending up in certain places. And those type of experiences can be guiding you on a path.
Oh, yeah.
Why did you synchronistically run into this person today at this time? And maybe you're on the same, path towards something that you're meant to walk down together. So I think, it can also be intense.
Hmm.
like, what are your intentions? Your intentions are to manifest this certain thing. And before you know it, it's falling into place around you. And I call that walking on the path of divine synchronicity, as all of
I
the
like
people
that.
and places and things you need to manifest your mission, fall into place perfectly.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good.
I love that. Yeah. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's totally like it's what you've been calling in synchronistically lands in your lap. But I find that the like discerning, having that discernment is so important of
Yeah.
like, it's like, oh, okay, awesome. This is all happening. It's all moving forward. This is beautiful, and sometimes it's
And
the
sometimes
universe
it's
just
just an
winking at you.
affirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the universe
And sometimes,
winking. And sometimes I just need that. It's like, oh yeah, here we
like
go.
the
Someone's walking.
numbers, right? Like
Yes.
444, I see all day long. I woke up
Oh my God.
the other night, it was 333. I see 111. I mean, all day long, right? I find that those are affirmations. The universe winking at you. It's affirming
Yeah.
you're on the right track. You're doing the
Yes.
right thing. Like, we're on board with you. We're supporting you. The angels are here with you.
It's so nice. Yeah.
Yes. Well, this is so nice to just kind of really get into your work a little, Corinne. I mean, I've known you a little bit, but I haven't really heard you talk about your work and your fascinations and your kind of, I like your scientific mind, but also your
Yeah.
mystical approach to science. So I'm glad you're coming to Sedona to,
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so excited to be there. Yes.
yeah. It's going to be a good crowd. I mean, it'll probably be a sellout, I think, with Bashar always sells things out and you know, Chris Blutzo and Diane Hennessy. It's just a great group of people coming together. So thank
Yeah.
you.
It's going to be very
Absolutely.
magical.
Anything coming up for you before March that you want to talk about, announce, um, share any website, how do people find you? Corinne?
Me? Oh, Wild
You. Yeah.
Divine Bliss. Wild Divine Bliss. It's like I'm
Great.
that's my podcast name, it's my website name, it's my Instagram. That's how you find me. And it's Wild Divine Bliss is all about, let's say, the Kundalini experience of that divine bliss of creativity that moves through us. And
Hmm.
it's not an emotional bliss in any way. And if you've experienced it, you know what I mean. It's not emotional. It is literally just you're tapping into, let's say, the impulse of creation. And so that's what wild divine bliss means.
Hmm. Did that come to you in your Kundalini experience, that name?
No, somebody actually, I was dancing because I'm a dancer. I belly dance and I fire dance. Somebody was watching me dance. It's been like, I don't know, 15 years ago, and they labeled me Wild Divine. And so the name stuck.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Oh, I like
that's how I
that.
was like, oh, I like that. Wild Divine Bliss. So there we go.
All
That's
right.
how I
You're a
got that.
perfect
Yeah.
You're a perfect example, Corrine, of the type of people that I choose to come and
Oh,
teach and guide at my events. And thank you so much for
oh,
introducing me to
thank you.
Corrine Allen. They
Well,
both came to my horse ranch in San Diego. And when I met you, Corrine, and we spent time in this right here
Yeah.
office,
Yes.
sharing, right? I could just feel the passion, also the
Oh,
sincerity and authenticity, really grounded in a very intellectual, philosophical way. And so you just have the perfect combination of the type of
wow.
presenters and guides I really like to have teach and guide others at my events. So bless you and
Oh, thank you. That's such an honor. Thank you so much because I
great
really
to see
appreciate
you,
that.
Corinne. I'll see you soon. And
See
Suzanne,
you
we have
soon. Yes.
another interview tomorrow with another amazing guest, Amanda.
Oh, wow.
yay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Corinne. I'll be in touch. We'll talk.
Okay. All right. Thank you both of you so much. All
Love
right.
and hugs to you both.
Bye.
See
Thanks,
everyone
Bye.
in
and
Sedona.
bye.
Yes. Bye.
interesting, exciting, right, Suzanne? That's a whole other level here for.
Very exciting. I mean, I truly believe in that, Kundalini energy and igniting that in the root chakra. For years, I led journeys into Sedona's red rocks and guided people in experiences using sound healing, doing chakra journeys, where the point was to ignite your Kundalini energy in the base of your spine, connected to the heart of Mother Earth, and then expanding, like up through. And you feel that electricity as it races up your spine, right? And comes out your third eye and your crown chakra. And, then suddenly, boom, it's like you've transcended the matrix. And you find yourself in this reality where it feels so expanded. And suddenly you have this sense of oneness with all that is. And you realize, I am that I am, right? You're one with all of creation. And so, yes, I love doing journeys and practices where you get the opportunity to ignite that Kundalini energy.
But you had an experience yourself, Suzanne, where I think your Kundalini awakened and you had the vision to do these conferences. Would you say that was a Kundalini experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I spent a lot of time prior to doing any events. I had 3 days a week where I just dedicated every day, and I was still living in Northern California. And I was just dropping into these intense experiences. Some of it was Buddhist based. So I was doing Buddha Tantra, mantra, mudras, right? But then that, and Rosicrucian practices. And
Wow,
I was
yeah.
working with the
Awesome.
psychic who was giving me, the techniques of running energy through the chakras. And before you know it, I just started spontaneously channeling. And I went through a period of channeling different personalities, like Saint Germain was a major focus, but then even like Lady Nada, Lord Sananda. And so, in this time, I had really opened my third eye. And as such, I started going on nature walks where I just realized like everything was consciousness. The water was liquid consciousness, crystallized beings were crystal consciousness. Started interacting with the animals and plants in a way that I never had before. So, yeah, all of those experiences really activated within me this sense of oneness. And then, yes, I had the inspiration to start gathering the spiritual community because I was so excited about what was happening to me. I wanted to share it with everybody. Like, I wanted everyone to experience this bliss and joy of transcendence.
Well, there's a guest for your show, Corinne.
Yep.